The BYD Atto 3 is one of the most popular EV crossovers that you can buy today. And finally, I have one for the channel. And special thanks to BYD Cars Philippines for making this lend-out review possible. And take note, what I have here specifically is the 2024 model year premium variant. But there has been a minor update already for this year, and the rest has been the same, including its price tag at 1,798,000 pesos, making this the best bang for the buck electric crossover. I know I have said that many times on the channel, but this now takes the spot. The Atto 3 has a very clean look up at front, and for me personally, it kind of looks like a mini BYD tank, since that was the first BYD electric crossover that I've driven. You have a ground clearance of 175 millimeters, and I think there have been updates to the cladding, but for the rest, it's really hard to tell the difference. And why is it so sunny today? Usually it's so cold nowadays. Anyways, powering this BYD Atto 3 is a 60.48 kilowatt-hour battery that produces a total of 201 horsepower and 310 Newton meters of torque, with a range of 480 kilometers, and you have an acceleration time from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 7.3 seconds. But of course, one of the most popular car channels today has done a acceleration time of 7 seconds. So this car is really peppy, and not to my surprise, when this was first delivered to my house, I really enjoyed its performance. As for the charging for this BYD Atto 3, so this is your charging port. This is a Type 2 charger. So I had a hard time charging in the malls because there was a queue and everyone was charging and all that. If you find a very slow charger like in Arcovia, because you know me, I hang out in Monza Barcade all the time, that has only a max of 3.1 to 3.2 kilowatts, and it only charges up to 10% in 2 hours. But if you will a fast charger like in the dealership, like example here in BYD Greenfield, now this one is a very special one because this will be available soon in the Evro app. But for now, it was free. Of course, I had to do it for the content. And I was able to charge from 18 to 80% with a rate of 87 kilowatts in under 35 minutes. That is really impressive. And literally, I just strolled around Greenfield and had lunch. And by the time I got back, it was already done. That is pretty impressive. And don't worry, folks, if you do not have the time to charge this outside, there will be a wall socket available once you purchase a BYD Atto 3. As for the side profile, it is your usual EV crossover, and these are running on 215, 55, and 18 series tires. And here on the C-pillar itself, I do not know why this silver trim looks like that of McLaren logos. And for the 2025 model year update, these have different set of tires. I think they're running now on Continentals. And as for the rear, it is really nice. It has a very long LED light bar. And this is another update too for the 2025 model year. It has a much simpler BYD logo instead of this full build your dreams logo. I'm not a fan of this, but good to know the 2025 has the shorter one. And another update too for that. This is the 2024 model. By the way, it has a manual tailgate, which I find very weird. And the electronic one is available if you buy the current ones. But still, what impressed me is the boot space. This has a total of 440 liters. You have a tire repair kit and a free charger once you purchase this vehicle. So don't worry, folks, if you do not have the time to charge like outside here in some of the malls, you can simply plug this at home. And if you fold all of the seats down now, it maximizes at 1,338 liters. You get an LED light here on the left side and two deep spaces here along with net storages. And what I like too, unlike some other Chinese crossovers in general, you have a tonneau cover. Oops, it's a little bit loose, but hey, at least there is to keep everything here in check. Upon sitting down here in the BYD Atto 3, for me, this is one of the best looking interiors of any crossover that I've encountered so far, and two, with all of the EVs. Here in the door card, again, one of the fanciest ones I've ever encountered, and one of the best door handles I've ever seen, because ergonomic wise, it's really good, because for taller people, they don't have to snag their elbows here on the pillar or on the seat itself. So this one's just a simple reach, and then it opens. And the funniest and quirkiest thing about this vehicle, in here in the cubby spaces, but you can literally strum then. That's so fancy. Even my mom played with this. The steering wheel here, it's nicely designed. You get your adaptive cruise control functions on the left side and volume and phone connectivity and instrument cluster adjustments on the right side. So the mode here, I think you can interchange it. So I just put it for the radio, and then for your very small instrument cluster, I mean, I don't mind it because it's slightly bigger than that of MG EV vehicles, and there's few information, but at least you have a tire pressure monitoring system, and then you can see how much power you're using, the range, and the total average of your consumption, and all that. And you have three driving modes here: eco, normal, and sport mode. And like what I said too in the BYD Seagull, if you flick it to sport mode, you can see a little red flash here in the infotainment system. And of course, the fanciest thing about this BYD Atto 3, so flick this button or on the infotainment system, you have a 12.8-inch rotating screen. Now for the 2025 model update, this is why I put it here vertically, it's much larger now at 15.6 inches. So that means the screen perfectly tilts above here on the air conditioning system. So cleverly designed, but for me, this 12 inches is actually really good. And this has wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto, and the rest here you can do like for your 360-degree camera, one of the clearest in this segment, and you get dynamic guidelines, of course. The response time is very good too, and among an array of safety features for this BYD Atto 3. Now for the dashboard too, it's set really, really low. So visibility all around, despite the large A-pillars, is really good. And depends on the driver too and where you're seated from. You have corner windows, but for me, I cannot see it that much. But hey, at least there still is. And the design cues of this BYD Atto 3 is really interesting. So like for the handles here, for of course opening and closing the door. Doesn't it look like a missing arm from the one in Love, Death, and Robots? And for the dashboard is design, I know it looks like that of a whale's mouth, including here for this center console box. Kind of mimics that of water. Air, water, earth, fire. Yeah, I'm sorry. Speaking of the center console box, it's actually really deep. You can literally put a lot of stuff in it. Yeah, the quality, fit, and finish here is really good. Remember, this specific media unit is already an older, but still, it withheld the test of time. And like with this set of air conditioning vents down below, you get same ones here on top of the dashboard. I like that. And again, I keep saying it, the fanciest air conditioning vents I've ever seen. I like that. Even the click, it sounds a lot more premium than usual. And you get a wireless charging pad. Center console, you get a gear shift, a lot of buttons here for your, I mean, there's a lot. It's literally self-explanatory. And I've never tried this out since it's already summer. You get, I think, an all-terrain drive mode that's present, surprisingly, in every BYD vehicle. And for the gear shifter itself, I don't know why I'm fanboying a bit. Doesn't it look like the data transfer lever of Rogue One? Interesting. And further down the center console itself, you get a much larger storage, along too with one of each Type A, Type C USB port, an SD card slot, and a 12-volt socket. And as for the steering wheel too, it is still telescopic, and I like this comes with it too. And the seats all around, it mimics that of sport bucket seats, but these are one of the softest leather seats in any Chinese crossover, and probably in the EV segment too. It's really comfortable and surprisingly a lot of bolstering, which I will explain later on why you need that. And above here, you get controls for your lights, your panoramic sunroof that stretches all the way to the rear seats. And take note, today's already the start of summer and it's really hot, but none of them is transferring here in the ceiling itself. So very good with the insulation with this BYD. And sun visor, you get a vanity mirror with an LED light. Don't extend, but hey, the quality is pretty good nevertheless. Now for the rear seats of this Atto 3, so here in the door card, it has the same design cues as the ones in front, and the strummets here on the door cards is much more what. Anyways, what I like with this Atto 3, this is already my driving position. You can almost stretch your feet all the way forward, but everything else is really good. Look at that. I know for the sunroof, my headroom is a little bit hampered, but still, for my size at 5'4", this is still pretty good. And two, you get triple map pockets on either side. So this is perfect for like some papers and for your phones. And here in the middle, you get two air conditioning vents and a cubby space down below. And again, one of each Type A and Type C USB ports. And if no one's sitting here in the middle, you get a central armrest with two cup holders with rubbery grips on them. And it's really soft. I mean, same here too with the seats. I mean, everywhere you sit in this Atto 3, it's really, really soft. And if I sit here in the middle, no transmission tunnel, which is good. And the cushion is just a tad softer compared to the left and right side. And even this is really soft that, right, even your back is not that stiffened up. That's really good. And you get more LED lights above here, coat hangers, and grab handles. So I think for my size, you can fit around 3 to 5 people here, which I've actually done on a short trip. So this BYD Atto 3 is one of the more spacious EV crossovers that I tried out. As mentioned, this BYD Atto 3 is one of the most popular EV crossovers because of two reasons alone. One, and number two, its usability as a daily SUV. If you're just tame like this at slow speeds, look at that, and then you want to floor it again. Yeah, it's super quick. This is why I love this BYD Atto 3. It kinda mimics the best of both worlds. The Atto 3 is one of the best EVs I've driven so far. This has the best blend of, as I said earlier, of everything. It can be a MX-5 killer per se and a normal crossover SUV. And the biggest surprise for me is the ride. Even the steepest humps here around in Green Hills, the suspension is really soft. Even the rebound rate surprisingly settles quite quickly. So there's some stiffness of it, but again, it makes up for it for the softness of the suspension overall as such. Sometimes you can even go over humps at speed without any suspension tuds. One thing I don't like though with this BYD Atto 3, and it's a common thing with EVs in general, is the brakes. They're actually quite grabby, and for the first time I've kind of experienced this in a vehicle too. There's actually some delay when you press the brakes themselves. So I press it now, and then there's kind of like a few second delay. But what I showed you earlier in the infotainment system, you can change the brake modes. That's why I left it in sport all the time, so it kind of feels more sharper than usual. And back to the suspension here, driving around in EDSA itself, it's pretty okay too. And the tire noise is not as much as I expected, which is good for an EV. However, once you drive this on the highway at around 100 kilometers per hour or so, yeah, you can hear a lot of tire noise and wind noise going into the cabin. And two, like with most EVs, there's a lot of wind noise with this Atto 3. But I would say it's still pretty much doable. But that's the only bad thing with this Atto 3, because the rest of it is, the handling is quite good too for an EV crossover as such. I mean, yeah, the steering feel may be light, but the response time and actually the smoothness of it, even though it's kind of too light for my liking, it does the job really, really well. It's not the sportiest out there, but it's just like somewhere smack in the middle of every crossover that I've driven. Acceleration, of course, even in normal mode, it's quite violent. Then, of course, I leave it on sport mode if you're just going at highway speeds, and you can do a lot of burnouts with that mode. But if you put it to eco mode, surprisingly, yeah, I can feel a bit of a delay now with the throttle itself. However, it's much more tame than usual. I only used eco mode once heavy rush hour traffic speeds because I find normal mode a little bit more efficient than the rest. And turning circle of this, ooh, actually, that's really good. Did it in one go only, didn't have to do a 3-point turn unlike some other uh, EV crossovers. And yeah, this is why I see the Atto 3 is one of the best EVs out there, and probably Mike already, even though we're just starting 2025, this is one of the best EV cars that I've driven this year. Yes, it is that good. And back to the NVH, even though I mentioned there's a lot of wind noise, tire noise, depends on the driving conditions themselves. But overall, like now, it's like with every other EV crossover, well, actually like other crossovers in general, it is very, very good. You feel isolated in here in the cabin. Another nice thing with this BYD Atto 3 is the weight of this vehicle. Yes, because some other EVs out there tend to be over 2 tons and all that, unless it's a very small K car-ish kind of EV. But for this one, for a crossover, this one stands at around 1700 kilograms only, and that's pretty light for an EV itself. And no wonder when you're just driving this around in the twisties, surprisingly, it's very fun too. And as I showed you earlier, the electric motors at front is kind of lower than usual to lower the center of gravity. No wonder I enjoyed driving this Atto 3. And remember, at 1,798,000 pesos, literally, I see no better EV out there. And yet again, it is a crossover. And probably the first EV I might have in the future. So we'll end on that note. Again, I'd like to thank BYD Cars Philippines for the lend out of this Atto 3. And finally, I got the Atto 3 on my channel. So, hope you guys like and subscribe. And again, special thanks to Julian Dumpit, to Adrian1011, and to Neil. So, follow him in their social medias. I'll put them all in the description down below. So, hope you guys like and subscribe. And I will see you with more future car reviews. Bye-bye.